Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the third night of the Committee of the Whole. It is September the 24th. We will begin tonight with hearing from the Sanitary District.
Mr. Chairman, did you want to review the EMS on fire where we left it
I do, yes,
later or now?
later.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you guys for letting me go first tonight. Just happy.
You were turned away yesterday, so.
Appreciate
away
it.
at the
I
gate.
appreciate it.
Put your time in.
Yep.
Yes, I will present sanitation 6601 budget and its 6607 capital improvement fund that's associated with that. Those are the two tax fund within the sanitary district. The controller went over the revenue essentially with taxes, but I'll just kind of touch briefly. Overall, the sanitary district is dropping 6% in total in revenue. There's some smaller units you'll see in the list there, but the circuit breaker went up an additional $500,000. So that's the primary driver there for that reduction in revenue. Personnel services, overall, there's a decrease here. That is in the 0505 account, so that's one of the things I'll get out of the way. I know it's always confusing. 6601, the tax fund, has two sub-departments, 0505, which is kind of the admin, which is administrative splits, and the 0506, which is the operations side. The 0505 goes down. That was just some housekeeping on how the splits were done. There are several positions that over the years just weren't quite in line, so we just kind of reevaluated those splits and made some changes in that area. Again, there's no actual reduction in pay or staff or increase in staff. It's just how we even the split through all sanitary districts funds. But it does still factor in the things that the controller and the mayor mentioned. There's a 0% increase for civilians, and the ASME bargaining unit is working towards a 3% increase.
We included the 3% because that's what went for vote today, actually, so we did include the 3%.
The supplies lines, the 2,000 lines, and I'll go through these in the detail page, but overall, there's a $100,000 increase. That's really the entire driver there is fuel. There's several little moving pieces I'll go over, but we've had to defer things the last couple of years to push money to cover the overages in fuel, so this year we budgeted for that. But as I go down through these items, there's a very small increase in the 6601, 0505, 2410 general supplies line. There's a few little small pieces with just expected inflationary pieces, but also with the new building, there's some supplies we have to put in that building that we were not doing previously. There's a slight decrease in the 6601, 0505, 2210 vehicle operation maintenance, which is fuel. The admin fuel has just been declining, just usage overall and how we've been doing that.
Specifically admin fuel.
That's the admin, the 0505 is the admin fuel.
Okay.
Yes. And just, it's just the smaller vehicles.
Okay,
and just-
okay.
It's just we'd used it on formula of use. It's not really that we're using less gallons, it's just slightly over budgeted
Okay.
in a couple of years, so we tried to tailor that down a little bit. The concrete line, 6601, 0506, so we're moved into the operations versions of the 2000s, the 0506, 2330. We reduced that some. It's really miscellaneous concrete. We use that for pads and things like that with our 3 yards, and just, again, reduced it based on historical use is where we were at. You will see down in the 6601, 0506, 2210, this is the vehicle operation maintenance. This is the fuel for the operation side. This is the line that that I stated was up $100,000. That's really what's driving the whole increase in the 2,000 funds here.
Operation vehicle would be a trash truck.
Primarily trash trucks. Yeah, there's a split there also with some of the 660, the sewer maintenance vehicles, which are heavy fleet vehicles, so they like their vac trucks and their water truck and things like that. There was reduction in tires and tubes, which is the 6601-2212 account. Again, that's just based on history. It kind of fluctuates, and we watch that. But if you remember 2019 and before, the trash fleet was really, really old, and those tires were just really wearing out, and we were replacing a lot. But with the programs we put in place and the fleet management, it's a little bit less over the last few years, so we reduced that kind of based on history over the last 3 years average. Simultaneously, we did move up slightly the repair parts account, the 6601-0506-2321 account. Some of that reduction in the last couple of years that we haven't used in tires, we've had to shift money down to cover the parts as they've grown through the years. So again, this is just we reduced one account that historically hadn't been using all of its funds and pushed some of that down to an account that's been using a little bit more. In the 3,000 accounts, in the 0505, we are up a little bit here, approximately 6%. I'll go through it all, but the two driving factors there are the intergovernmentals. If you remember last year in December, it was approved for the salary interlocal. So that updated all the interlocals that we paid back here. That salaries hadn't been updated since around 2013, but also code enforcement shifted back to the general fund. So it used to be in 6601 in the 0318 account, sub-account, and it moved over to the general fund. So then it shifted down into the intergovernmentals to pay back into that general fund for those positions.
At the bandwidth of sanitation, could you take code enforcement back?
Potentially, I guess, right? That could be a talk. I mean, if you look at the budget where it is now, there's $100,000 that is in the plus. So at the end of this year's budget, that again, that circuit breaker loss. If we kept kind of the salary stayed here, right? They just shifted from the 03108 to the intergovernmentals. That's kind of covered. But if you look at their 2,000 and 3,000, 4,000 accounts, that was sort of, even though that shifted over, what the circuit breaker increased was kind of even to that. So if it came back in, we're going to be $500,000 less roughly on the circuit breaker than we were before. So it does get tight on those operations. When we get to capital, and we'll talk about this in a minute, there's a couple things in the sewer side that have always been 50-50 splits with the tax. Ideally, that could be pushed over to sewer, right? There's a few things that you could make squeezes to allow it to come back if that was desired by the council and administration. There may be ways to do such a thing.
I just didn't know if you had the bandwidth administratively to take that back.
As far as funds goes, it could be looked at. It could maybe be squeezed or assisted in some manner.
Okay, thank you.
But yeah, the primary piece there in the 0505 section is those intergovernmentals, and there is a new lease in there that ups slightly the old lease. The residential fleet the lease finished up last year, so we held on to the trucks for a year again, trying to just maximize that fleet management, but we don't want to get back to where we were in 2019 and doing hydraulic cleanup every single day off the roads. So that lease is coming up, so we've got estimates on what we think that would come around to replace the entire residential fleet, and that goes up slightly, and we factored in trade-in value and all those things from the existing residential fleet. In the 0506 3000s, there's an increase here, but it's primarily just there's an increase of what we shifted to our capital improvement fund. It's not actually an expenditure. It's just some funds that are going earmarked into the capital improvement. But I'll go down the 3000s here, kind of in some detail. Call out the ones with some change. One of the biggest ones I didn't call out there, it's big percentage-wise, but is the 6601 0505 3210 telephone and facsimile. This went up. Approximately doubled. So the district has been working towards asset management. And as part of that, with that software, there are units that go out into the field with all of our vehicles, and that data package that goes with those, we think is going to push it to this. I do meet with our carrier tomorrow to kind of map out exactly what that will be cost-wise to that. And again, asset management was something the IFA required around 2019. Like, to be eligible for IFA funds, you have to have an asset management program. So this is those steps towards that compliance. And also recently, they just passed a new rule. The IURC, even if you're not subject to the IURC, will also require asset management from all utilities. So again, this is towards that compliance issue. Moving down, I can actually go up one there slightly. I apologize, I missed one. Contractual services, 6601, 0505, 3990. This went down. Every year that's based upon need. We have certain contracts, right, that are kind of done every year. We have on-call HVAC, electrical, some plumbing. We have like our legal services and things like that. But we have some in this, in the admin thing, it takes the admin spread. So there's specialty things too, like whether it's engineering firms or things of that nature. And that it's always just dependent upon use or projects that we're doing. And that goes down for this coming year based upon need. The next one, the lease payment, 6601, 0505, 3815. This is what we talked about. Will be
What is that? Say that again?
the 6601, 0505, 3815 lease payment, which we kind of went over in the overview section, but that's going up it's going to go up $55,000 as we look to replace all 6 residential trash trucks. Just for reference, I mean, we always review whether leasing or buying them outright makes more sense. We compare that, and the commercial fleet, which we just kind of finished updating, is a hodgepodge of lease and buying outright. It just depends on what the prices come in at. Right now, we're looking at, it probably makes more sense to lease the entire residential as they're all the same age. And each trash truck to buy outright, it's about $330,000. So if we stage just one per year, which is about equivalent to what a lease is to get all 6, it would take another 6 years to get it out, and none of those trucks are going to make, the few that would have to go that 5th and 6th year are not going to make that without significant issues. The next item, there's the 6601, 0505, 312, 3974, which is a transfer of funds. The reduction here is what was going into the capital improvement from the admin pocket that just went down. Again, that's just based on projects we have earmarked for the future. The intergovernmental, which is a couple lines below that, 6601, 0505, 3988. Again, this is from that update to that interlocal that occurred in December of last year, and that, again, was the shift of code enforcement back to the general fund, as well as the other city positions that the intergovernmental includes. Those hadn't been updated since around 2013, 2014, so updating those.
Could you bring us up to speed, re-educate us on those other positions?
I'd have to pull out exactly, but it covers like a percentage of salaries, and they're not all the flat percentages. There's some different ones, but it covers like the HR office, the finance office. There's
Assisting you in what you're doing?
Yes. So
Yeah, gotcha.
And again, I don't know exactly how all the percentages were developed and metriced out, but yeah, it covers that. Some things in I&D are in there, code enforcement's in there. I'm sure there's some I'm forgetting off the top of my head, but moving down the line. The contractual services in the 0506 line, so the 6601, 0506, 3990, that is projected to go up. Again, it's $22,000. This is the GPS units. I spoke about these kind of at length at the meeting when I presented the budget originally to Mayor, Controller, and the council members that attended. So all the trash fleet will get GPS units and front-facing cameras. We think it'll help drive insurance costs down in the long run. But 2, it does a couple other things for us. The units pull codes off of the engines and tie into the asset management software. So it's part of that asset management program. That's also going to be used to do route efficiencies and help design routes as we're changing all those recycling needs. So it's kind of 3 birds, 1 stone, if you will. And then lastly, significant piece was the transfer of funds in the 0506, the operation side, the 6601, 0506, 3974. There's $273,000 going into the capital improvement fund that's there for what we hope in a handful of years would come around to be building a transfer station out there. So the recycling piece that's down at the wastewater facility could move back to the landfill. It would also put a roof kind of over the resource recovery area. So there's other things that we think are going to be mandated to have to divert from the landfill, and they would have to be under roof. So again, it would allow us to be in a position for those mandates as well. So we've been slowly putting money back to that year after year. And I'll go to capital on this. The 0505 increases significantly. You'll see from 132,000 to $611,000. The big driving force in that 0505 is two items. One, we typically do sewer split for all lining projects is split 50-50 out of 6201 and 6601. Last year, or this year, I guess, we did not have to do that. We had a project come in under bid in 2024, and we rolled all the lining into that project and did not use any tax funds for that. So it looks like a significant hike but in 23, 24, it was always embedded in there, and all those other years. We have a fixed amount of dollars we use for lining. We have a whole list of pipes that need lined. We put that out for contract, and whichever company can get the most projects for what's in the budgeted amount is how we bid those out per year. The other item that is in there is a piece of having to update some of the PLCs in our treatment plant. The SCADA system, SCADA is basically the automation software that looks over the treatment plant. It's only staffed one shift per day, so all the alarming and the automation is done through that, is no longer supported, and that's being moved over to a server. But there is some old PLCs in the treatment plant kind of running processes that have been there since the 80s. And there's a specialized software that makes the old ones and the new ones shake hands. And as we move to the server, we have to update those 1980s PLCs. So again, that's something else. This type of work is typically 50-50, but it only comes up during projects that are needed on those pieces. The 0506, it went down about $70,000. That is because in this year's budget, the 2025 budget, we had that compact and baler that we got 50% matching grant for, but after those are bought this year, that's not going to be needed next year, so that falls off of the capital budget. And that is again, there's approximately $100,000 in the plus left in this, and again, part of that was not knowing what the DLGF was going to do with the taxes and the circuit breaker as to where that would fall. So it was kind of leaving a good cushion in there to be able to absorb whatever those may be. And that's what I have on 6601. I can answer any questions before we move on to the capital improvement fund.
Council, have any questions on the 6601 detail?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Engel?
I think I missed it, but would you please again explain the intergovernmental charges, 3988?
Yeah, so that intergovernmental is...
237,000.
Yes, so the previous intergovernmental agreement, which has 5 departments, I think it has RP&L, it's for the salary interlocal. It's RP&L, us, I think street, parks, transit is the other one, I think is all 5. And there's a handful of positions or departments within the city that are shared, like HR. There's only one HR department, one finance department. Those back, I don't know when it originally started, but the last agreement was in place in 2013 for all those salaries and those splits that we all paid back. When this got updated in December of 2024, it brought those salaries from 2013 dollars into 2025 dollars. And also code enforcement, which had been in sanitation's fund in 6601-0318, it moved back to the general fund. So it rolled into that interlocal agreement as well. So where those funds would have normally been in 6601-0318, they now moved down into this intergovernmental thing. So a large chunk of that increase is just where it shifted from 03108 into that salary line up there, the 1196 or whatever, it shifted down into this intergovernmental piece when that was agreed upon.
Thank you.
Just a little follow-up, Pat. So I'm understanding the intergovernmental is really just the services that the sanitation is using. So when you said transit, are you, the
We don't pay transit. Those 5 departments all pay back to the city for the
Yes.
shared city services.
okay, so, okay.
So like HR, finance, like I said, there's a little bit from sanit, and we're not all the same. We don't all pay the exact same percentages.
Right.
It's kind of based on need or size. Again, I don't know how it was calculated on the percentages exactly on the breakout, but like sanitation pays a little bit into like I&D or like the engineering part up there for some of that. There's some overlap into that. Like I said, code enforcement, HR, finance,
Gotcha.
maybe a little bit more.
Any other questions for 6601 detail? Hearing none?
Okay, we'll move on to the capital improvement fund, the 6607 fund. There's not a lot going on in this fund. Primarily, as I discussed in the 66010506, there's a couple $100,000 going in for that transfer station that we hope to build in a few years. There is coming out of this fund, slated to be $252,000. You'll notice that that's also in this year's budget. It will not be spent this year. We've had that in the budget for the last 3 or 4 years coming out of this. It is the part, when this account was originally set up in 2020, there were funds put back in this that helps the landfill close cells when they're needed. And we've anticipated IDEM was going to have us close that cell for the last couple of years. They have not brought that forth. So we kind of have it in there appropriated, but if they don't give us that call, we don't do it. And as we're in nearly in October, they're not going to give us that go-ahead now to do it. So again, we've just appropriated again for next year, that $252,000, which is a small part. It's probably somewhere around 1.5 million total to close the cells we anticipate they'd have to do, but most of those funds are in the landfill's budget. And that's all I have on 6607, unless there are questions.
Council have any questions on 6607? Hearing none?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
Before we move on to public operations, I did a little housekeeping. Dr. Lucinda Wright and Councilor Larry Parker have excused absences for this evening. I'd like to invite Matthew to the podium.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Good evening.
This is obviously my first time, so I'll do my best.
Oh, you're doing great.
Thank you. So we'll start with code enforcement. Overall, we are about 40,000 less than this past year in 2025. We have salary reductions due to there no longer being a director separate for just code enforcement. In the 2000s accounts, major changes are adding 5,000 to 2413 uniforms. That $5,000 was just simply moved from an account recording fees, $39.50. That's a $20,000 budgeted. In the past 5 years, we've never used more than $8,000. So just reappropriating that money to something that we need with the rebrand, and I need to provide some cold weather items for the crew. Moving into the next grouping, general supplies is going up $1,500. Mostly due to my crew, the maintenance crew, just some inflationary costs on their supplies, as well as them just starting to take on a few extra tasks out in the field and stuff. So just trying to get ahead of not running out of money in that account when they're out in the field. Building demolition, reduction of $100,000 to zero. That money was moved to the unsafe building fund because it makes more sense to be there and get it out of the general fund.
Matthew, 3990, the other contractual services, I notice here 50,000 budgeted, 630, 11,300. Obviously, understanding that it's June 30 number. Do you foresee that that's going to hit 50,000 by 12/31?
I don't think it'll hit 50, but it'll probably be pretty close. There's a lot of unpaid things that just haven't gotten through yet.
Okay.
And it is something I would rather not play with too much, just because it is something we utilize and can kind of move if we have to pivot later in the year with other 3,000 accounts.
Okay.
There might be a little bit of wiggle room, and I can get you a more accurate number past, at the end of September if you'd like to see that.
I'd like to see a little bit more detail on the other contractual services.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
Any other questions so far?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Engel?
3401, property and liability insurance,
Mhm.
of 112,739. Is that,
Lean towards the controller, as I do not set the number.
seems like a little more than a 6% increase.
It was,
That is because in 2023, and this is, you have to remember too, we just moved it over to the general fund, but in 2023, code enforcement had 16 claims. So that went towards their 3-year average.
Matthew, how many claims do you have this year? Do you know?
I believe one, and that might actually happen in December of last year. It was very early on, before I was even really knees deep into code. But we haven't really had any major events yet. Mhm. Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Chair.
I think it was Monday night or Tuesday night, we talked about the law department and the bottleneck that it sometimes is with respect to getting things taken care of. How many situations do you have pending in law at this point? Can you?
Are
Just a
you
little bit about
referring to just anything that they
Yeah.
assist with? Quite a few, and it's actually something that just recently I've decided to start trying to figure out a more creative solution, particularly for collections, to try and do it in-house, and I'm working with HR and finance to see if that's something that we can do as a temporary means to try and collect on our fines because of that kind of bottleneck scenario. And then there's obviously a backlog of properties that are needing to be reviewed for unsafe and things like that can be 6 months or more
That they're in queue for 6 months?
for review. And then the natural process as well, right? There's only scheduled unsafe building events every, so it does affect us significantly,
Right.
but, we obviously try and make the best of it, and we are working on trying to do something creative in the meantime until we get that figured out.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Purcell?
on your unsafe buildings, there's a commission that meets on that, correct? Do you have those meetings regularly?
It's a separate, I'm not holding those, but yeah, they're regular.
But that would be your first step before legal
No, they go to legal prior.
first.
And there is a separate unsafe fund that we'll talk about next too,
Yeah.
to provide some,
Thank you.
Cool. Next up, I just have some reductions through telephone, postage, travel, and legal publications. These are just things that, when I sat down and just started reviewing, they tend to be over budgeted in the past, and things I just don't think need to be that high in these categories. So try to save a little bit there. There was a reduction in workers' compensation premiums. I don't know the details of it, but there's a slight decrease there. Like I said, the recording fees are the other major one here. with that reduction of 10,000, just because we never get close to 20,000 in recording fees. I just thought the money could be better used other places. The last item, 4490, other equipment. This 3,000 is from that 10,000 that I'm moving, and that's mainly for air compressor, nail gun, and generator for the crew, for their field work. Would save us a lot of time with their, they seal a lot of buildings when things are broken into, or if we need to assist landlords or owners or anything with sealing, you know, for safety reasons and things. We think, we you know, got some quotes and things, and we think 3,000 would cover those 3 items.
Matthew, this looks like a pretty well-prepared and responsible budget you put forth.
Thanks. I really appreciate that.
We need to find money, and there's a lot of red on here. So I thank you for that.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Purcell.
I appreciate the work you do, and the chairman is right. This budget is very carefully put together, it's obvious. My concerns, and probably something you would have no control over, is the very simple fact that enforcement is very difficult for some reason for Richmond. And the moment we go to an attorney, we've spent more than what you're going to get out of us, of any situation as far as fines. So I guess my concern is how do we move forward and enforce the codes for the citizens of Richmond that deserve that their property values aren't lowered by their neighbors and lack of enforcement when we don't have really the tools, it doesn't seem like, to enforce in an effective manner.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I was alluding to with trying to get a little more creative with our process. When I first came in, I really started getting involved in about February. In the past, we were collecting maybe $1,000 a year in fine, like collections off of fines or violations, not including weed liens. They are separate, they get attached to the property. So I'm just talking about cleans, seals, anything that, you know, people ignore our letters for, you know, 3 months, they typically get a fine. Our fines were extremely low. I think there's just some previous misunderstanding about what the inspectors were capable and allowed to do. So we kind of went through and did some retraining. So fines naturally are being more, what's the right word, like appropriate for the actual problem that they're trying to deal with. There's also been a little bit more aggression with how serious they are being with these individuals that have fines on their properties. And I know this doesn't sound like crazy or anything, but as of the end of July, we've collected about 5,000, and we got a few more payments since then. So just in that like 5 to 6 month period, we've collected more than we have year over year just by changing our strategy. To answer the second part of your question, I'm trying to move, instead of relying on the law department and burdening them with additional work and they have enough going on. I think that we can actually come up with a templated process through law that we can do in-house in code that would enforce fines more, and it would actually be separately tracked, the collections policy. So my plan would be that my admin would take over the collections policy. They would send out demand of payment letters and then track 30, 60, 90-day delinquencies, and then after the 90-day file with law instead of going right from the beginning. I think it would be significantly more effective. We have about $80,000 in uncollected fines as of today. Actually, it's probably a bit higher at this point. I think by doing this, we could collect 50% of that, which would obviously help. and also hold people accountable,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I think that there's also been a cultural idea of no one has to listen or pay. And
Yeah.
our department has been very focused on trying to change that and actually clean up the city and hold people accountable that are abusing that. And not in any unfair or unjust way, just accountability is really important for this department specifically. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I deeply appreciate that you're looking at it from a different perspective, because obviously what we're doing has not worked. And all I'm speaking to is the unfairness of someone who takes care of their property, et cetera, and the next door neighbor doesn't, and how that affects
Values.
all
Yeah,
the values as well as attitudes in the neighborhood.
of course.
So thank you very much.
Very welcome.
Good
Mr.
job.
Chairman, one comment about, we started a process in 2016 to recodify our ordinances, and that was driven mainly over the fact that if you read our codes, you'll see that it's very unclear as to who has responsibility for what when it comes to enforcement. And here we are in 2026.
And he's
And
taking
still
the ball and running
still
with
don't
it.
have it.
But he's making the efforts.
But I want to bring that to Matthew's attention, because at some point, we are going to get the Grand Mall new ordinance presented to us for review. I want to be darn sure that whatever processes you've developed are reflected in that code.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very
appreciate
good.
that.
We're not codified? We're not codified? You certainly have a chance to be a leader here. I mean, yeah, obviously, we're lacking accountability.
A hero.
And,
No.
and it's pretty simple. People just want order and accountability. So that's music to our ears, I think. So any other questions for Matthew,
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Purcell?
I would appreciate if you would take a look at, it's an ordinance that's on hold right now, 2024, number 11. That is a blight ordinance that we'll be pushing forward hopefully this year, and I would love to have your input on it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any final questions? Council?
Great job.
Thank you.
All right,
Thanks.
ready to move to unsafe?
Moved on safe.
Okay. So, nothing too crazy, other than the 125,000 increase to the demolitions.
I take back everything I said prior.
I've doomed us all. I'm so sorry.
I see why you started.
Just get out of the way, you know? But we do need to obviously have some sort of monies dedicated to that, because we do want to keep, as we've already discussed, the ball rolling on these items that come through that, you know, whether it's related to fire or just, you know, degradation over time, we want to make sure that things are staying safe. This year, I mean, we've already had a few fires, and we have a few that are still pending, so we do need to have it somewhere. I think it makes more sense here because it's dedicated to things that are truly unsafe. And that would add to the already existing 30. So total of 155. That's the real big one here. We do have reductions in interest demand deposits and property tax.
Anyone have questions on unsafe building?
I could talk all evening on it, but I won't.
Hearing none?
Chairman,
Mr. Engel?
before you move on, so this is the budget that the Unsafe Building Commission uses?
Yes.
Do we, I guess I'm wondering where we see how many demolitions actually take place. I know they do because I see them around the community. Is that a number from the secretary of the Unsafe Building Commission?
No, I can get it from code. because they're all tracked through there. You know, they're related to violations. So an inspector's going to be tied to each one.
Can you
we've
provide us
had
with a look
8
back?
I'm sorry?
Can you provide us with a look back, maybe the last 3 years,
I think
last year?
I wasn't even in Indiana 3 years ago.
Last month?
2025?
2025, I think we had 8 pending, and I think we're like actively in the middle of doing most of those right now. I think 3 were just taken down, and we just had another fire on the northwest side of town that's also going to be getting demolished as well. So I think this year we're at like 10-ish. Last year, I think we were at 8. Don't quote me exactly, but it's not like an absurd number.
Okay.
Just because, and I do want to point out as well, due to inflationary costs, that number has gone up per demolition. You know, so because I was shocked when I started looking at first, I was like, wow, you took down a building for that? That's crazy. You know, with 2023, 2024 data, and then I look now and it's like double the price. So we're not getting as many demolitions with the same amount of money. But, you know, I'd say 10, 15 a year is a realistic number with 155,000.
And I know that the demolitions are not just fire-related. There are
Of course, no.
a lot of properties that are-
Degradation, right? You know, you have things that are just old, tree falls on it.
And also, I've sat through several unsafe building commission meetings. I know the commission will give property owners every chance in the world to make improvements and make their places safe and
Yeah.
blight-free.
Yeah.
know-
And a lot of them are related to emergency scenarios as well, where it's just, they have to come down now because it's problematic to citizens. But in a situation where it's a non-emergency, they have time.
And when that happens and a building is taken down off a property, we put a lien on that, right? I guess I don't have a clue how many liens we collect on. I know when we take a property down, I believe we offer it to property owners.
It's been done in the past. Some people say they don't want it because of taxes. I don't know historically how many people have accepted those offers. I know that a lot of the time, to incentivize the sale of the property later on when it, you know, after, Beth, correct me if I'm wrong, 2 years? By the time it gets to the county and drop the lien?
Can't hear.
There's a lot of process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which takes a little time, and
Yeah.
usually the liens fall off by that point, so there's an incentive for someone new to come in.
Okay, thank you.
Any final questions on unsafe building?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Purcell?
the ones that I hear the most about are the ones across from the park. The two, one of them is burned out, has been burned out for years. On East Main Street on the north side, and then.
12th? Off of 12th Street?
No.
No,
20
on 20
22nd.
22nd.
At the corner of 22nd and East Main.
Yes.
There's two properties, including the crane.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other one is on South 11th and 100 block, and it's been burned out for 7, 8, 10 years.
Oh, okay. I know.
So with the crane and the one next to it, I believe there's some like historical pieces
Yes.
involved and they're just, they haven't been tangible items for us to really get involved in with demolitions. The other one, the 11th and,
100 block of 11th on the east side of the street.
okay.
It's a double,
South 11th.
South 11th.
Can't picture that one off the top of my head, but what most likely happened is the building commissioner deemed it that it was, at least a safe structure that wasn't in imminent collapse, and that's why it was never taken down at the time. Something I can look into to put on the list.
I'll get with you. Thank you.
Would you like to move on to your next piece?
Yeah.
Transit?
You want to do transit next?
No, you tell me.
Airport.
Airport, okay. These are different.
So Rodney was so gracious to give me a nice little snapshot here, so I'll go through that. If you have questions, we can go into it. Our total revenue is estimated to be up to $559,678. We just got the farm lease bid in, and it came in a little bit higher than expected, so there's a roughly $25,000 increase from what we were imagining happening this coming year, which is good. Appropriations are at $498,043.81. And that's for personnel, supplies, general services.
How many employees at the airport?
Currently two.
Full-time.
Two full-time. Yep. They do a lot of work. The largest savings would be, removing the part-time position for next year.
Because it's not needed.
Not currently. Something that we'll evaluate year to year.
What questions,
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Engel?
in the part-time budget, do we not have part-time employees?
Well, we've had one in the past. That individual has recently left the airport for a different opportunity. And when we kind of took a look at it, it's something that's not completely necessary. It's also a very difficult position to maintain someone in the role that is, on the ball. So we decided to cut it for 2026, as it is stable at the airport right now. But like I said, we can reevaluate that 6 or 12 months.
Matt, does that affect the overtime budget up $4,000?
It could, but it really hasn't been, if I'm not mistaken.
We use that part-time person to cover vacation, sick time. We had to bump the overtime up because Adam would have to work a little more overtime versus holidays.
I noticed that travel 3,500, there's nothing in the line item through 6:30, which I'll take that as a 0. Do you not foresee using travel this year?
There's some conferences that we're considering being attended, but I don't know if you'll be attending them this year.
I also see the same gap in the property liability claims where not complaining through 6:30, but looks like 3,000 was budgeted, and just wanted to make sure that wasn't an omission.
In there, in case we did have a car accident, that we could pay a portion out of that fund. But we were asked with previous controller to leave something in there, so.
In all departments, you'll see that most of them do have something in their claims line just for that purpose.
Uniforms and accessories, same, nothing spent through 6:30, and it's a $1,900. I know it's immaterial, but
Yeah, and it's something we need to consider with rebranding the city.
nothing
Nothing
spent.
spent this year.
Okay.
We have had expenditures out of that account, because we're contracted with Centos, so.
Did it pull from somewhere else?
Again, it's through 6:30, so just as. Council have any airport questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Engel?
So what's the progress with the new office building?
I will let Rodney come up and talk about that one.
Terminal, well, yeah.
Terminal.
Terminal.
Good evening, Rodney Mays, Airport Manager. So I'm happy to announce we did receive our federal grant for the terminal building design.
You did or didn't?
We did.
You did?
Yep, so LWC is well underway with design. They came out and did some surveying, so they're getting the groundwork going. And then early next year, we'll apply for the actual construction grant.
Okay, great.
So usually if the FAA funds one part of the program, you're pretty good chances of funding the actual construction part. So we're well underway with that project.
Great. It's needed, I think.
Yes, very, very much so.
Thank you.
You just spoiled the surprise.
Thank you, sir. What?
I'm just kidding. Any other questions? Good.
Transit.
Transit. A lot of red. I'm going to ask about the parking garage, too.
Huh?
I'm going to ask about the parking garage, too.
Save that for the next one.
Okay,
Save that for the last one.
okay.
So, just as a reminder, obviously, transit is 50% federal grant, 25% state, 25% local match. Our expected match for this coming year is $376,213. So, total, kind of what we're looking to do out of, or what we would be totaling is 1.5, a little over 1.5 million. Some of the large changes here are revenues and appropriations. We did come up with a more realistic number for 2026. We removed the paratransit contribution as that is voluntary, so it's not a reliable income source. And then other revenue for advertising, it was estimated at 10,000. We're not really collecting any revenue right now. So we cut it in half because we do have some ideas about trying to get some refresh on getting people to advertise on the buses.
And that's, you're referring to the signs on the side of the bus?
Correct.
Yep.
And Chris and I have been coming up with some different strategies of how to do that, maybe some different options that would cost a little bit more upfront for the business, but something that, so I wanted to put a little bit in there just to see if we could hit that goal. But I didn't think we were going to get 10,000 out of that account next year. We're good so far. Cool. Under the 1,000s, we did remove part-time employees spaces. So that's going from that 58,000 down to 23. This is just, we don't utilize those positions as part-time drivers. It affects the contract quite a bit, which would balloon our budget if we were to hire part-time. So we have never really hired out of there, and we don't see a need.
How many full-time do you have?
We have 11 currently, but we're up to 14.
And they're all full-time.
Full-time, unionized. Which also, would lead to reductions in all of the, vacation and wages and all the things related. Good?
Bingo.
Oh, I did want to ask about the overtime.
That's what I was just about to talk about. So let's see if I answer your question. The amount of overtime has just been, I don't think 30,000 was a realistic number to begin with. It is something that we are operating at 12 hours a day. We are the only public service that's doing that in the state of Indiana. And somebody, let's say, it's flu season and 3 people call out, we need to cover those shifts. You can't just not run buses unannounced. So it is a challenging line item. And it really just is related to the fact that we run 12 hours a day.
So it's not related to being understaffed?
No, it's related to PTO or people getting sick and calling out.
Okay, thank you.
So that would be the 15,000 increase that we're requesting there. Moving to the 2000s. Janitorial supplies, we're reducing $4,000. We have a good back stock at the moment for janitorial for down on Q Street. Fleet and gasoline, reducing $15,000. Nothing to do with routes or prices or anything. It's just, it's always been overinflated in that account. Thought we could save a little bit there. The only one that I would really consider a major increase is the fleet maintenance and repair parts. We have transmissions that are at the end of their lives, and they're $8,000 just for the parts. So we're anticipating at least 2 transmission repairs next year, and we thought that that would be the best line item to fund them through. That does not include labor, which is in a separate line item.
Chairman?
Mr. Engel?
So are we replacing vehicles, or is that part of a future plan?
We need to get funding to do that, and we are looking at ways to do that. It's competitive, but in the meantime, we are just prolonging these buses' lives as long as we can. So instead of buying a very, very expensive bus, we can pay $10,000 to replace a transmission. And that's kind of the strategy that the transit team has been doing until we can secure a large amount of funding to get new buses.
Thank you.
Good? Okay. 3000s, we were advised to move the physicals over to contractual services, so that 2,000 that disappeared just got added to contractual services. We're looking to add an additional amount of money up to 41 because our mechanics hourly rate has increased. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, $6 an hour? So, and he saves us a lot of money by being available. He's very reliable. We would like to keep him. So we wanted to request additional monies there just to make sure that we have the money to pay his time. He's the one that's doing the work when there's a transmission, when there's the issues, so.
What's in the professional services line item?
This was a request for a study to be done for microtransit. This would be a supplementary that would be basically filling in the gaps where our transit system doesn't currently run. It would service a larger population. This is a request to fund the initial study at the mid-tier.
Wasn't there some grant money involved in that? Okay.
No idea what she said.
So this is a separate company that we were looking at to do just the initial kind of assessment on the city routes, all that, which would also assist us with the larger picture of routes in general. And that's about it for transit. Any questions? All right, we're cruising.
One question.
Yes.
The property liability claims. So you're budgeting 10,000, reduction of 8,000 to date. The activity through 6:30, there's a negative.
Apparently, we got reimbursed for previous accidents, and it could have been from the previous year that went into the
Okay.
account.
So the increase to 10, and we had 3175 the year prior. Obviously, we were awarded this year and 10 for next year.
Yes, and as you can see, the property and claim insurance did go down considerably, and that is due to the reduction in their 3-year average.
But we're forecasting claims to be up next year.
That I can't answer. That's something that the HR puts forth with their property and claims. That can be adjusted, however. We can lower that.
Not something to aim for.
You got it.
What questions do we have of transit?
I can't wait for parking. Let's go.
To what? Bring it on.
What are we doing? Oh, this one? Off street? Off street?
We're really excited about that.
Oh, jeez.
This has been the funnest.
This is my favorite one, too.
I can't wait.
I can't tell you how many times I've replaced the streetlights in that building.
So, loss of revenue, we get paid once a year for a large, one entity that pays roughly $20,000. But we've also lost a significant portion of revenue due to people leaving the area that we're previously renting in the garage, which would be, a large employer that was right there. So there's a large reduction in the revenue because of that. And we can kind of just jump into questions if you want. I think it might be easier to just go
I think that'll pick back up.
conversational.
No, I don't. I think we understand, but the unfortunate thing is that what we're excited about is those spaces to be taken, even though we've given them for free for a period of time. But beyond that,
Yeah, looking.
we're excited
future.
about
Yes,
selling
yes.
more.
2 years into the future,
Yes.
we will be looking much better.
Yeah.
So I'm also excited about that. I think that'll provide a large cash flow into this account that could really help with the other lots as well.
Yeah, I
We
think
have multiple
specific
lots.
to the parking garage, the branding on it is not good. Concerns cleanliness and safety, lights, security, leaking where the infrastructure is in danger of being
A larger
unable-
issue.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm anxious to hear about that.
For the more serious issues, including the cracks in the ceiling in the bathrooms have been shut off to the public at the moment due to vandalism as well as that safety concern. We're looking to try and fund that through redevelopment because there's just not the cash in this account. So we'll be putting forth requests through redevelopment to get some stabilization structurally. And currently working with LWC as well as, Chris has been very helpful in assisting with these projects, but, we're getting things evaluated to see what the project tier list should be. But we do have an immediate concern on that will be going to redevelopment.
Is that something that is going in 2025, in the fourth quarter of 2025, or is that something?
Probably 2026.
Okay. But no more damage is necessarily
No,
because of the water shut off.
at the moment, we're okay. We've been keeping an eye on that. Code has been assisting with keeping an eye on the garage to an extent. The police help when they can, but I usually have the crew go over a couple times a week to just make sure that people aren't staying in the stairwells. And they've actually assisted to save some money on some repairs over there as well, just, pipe falling off, the drain pipe falling off. They just, strap it back up and stuff. But the other stuff would be kind of creative, right? You're talking about branding, cleanliness, things like that. We have a part-time staff member that is the janitorial day porter, whatever you'd like to call it. But he's responsible for every lot. So, I mean, he only has 4 hours a day to hit the garage, as well as 8 or 9 other lots through the city to, you know, cut grass, remove trash, make sure that things are kind of under control. In an ideal world, and what we were kind of hoping to do this year, but it's not going to work, is to get another person funded, maybe 50% transit, 50% off-street, or a full-time person in the future to be assisting with oversight and cleanliness. And then we have an interesting scenario where a private individual came to me requesting to remove the bench from there, the old train station bench. And he's currently doing a capital campaign to get new benches for in there for replacement. It's kind of the deal that we struck is if you can get it out of here and replace them, we'll do that. And then we are attempting to come up with some ways of getting it cleaned up down there, maybe get some, new life breathed into that little depot area. But it's pretty creative at the moment.
I think the parking garage is really going to be a focal point as things begin to change down there. And so I think we've got some conversation as to how we can bring that up to speed, how it needs to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Questions on off-street? Nailed it.
Survived.
Yep.
Very good.
Yeah,
Good
well done.
job.
Great job.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening.
You
too.
too.
My alley.
That's good.
Dustin.
He's a gentleman.
I didn't call you to the mic.
He's a jewel.
Who next?
Infrastructure and development.
Damn it.
Good evening, Council. I'm Dustin Purvis, the Director of Infrastructure and Development.
Good evening.
I&D's budget for 2026 is pretty straightforward, so I'll just jump right into the 1,000s, the personal services. The notable increase there is to part-time salaries and wages. That is for a part-time zoning enforcement officer position. Our department does a pretty good job effectively evaluating zoning compatibility on the front end when it comes to plan review and permitting, but we aren't usually able to do as good of a job evaluating and sort of enforcing the zoning code within the city more broadly. So we tend to be complaint-driven, which kind of isolates us to a few areas of the city where the calls come in from, and then, additionally, just our current staff capacity really isn't able to keep up with those complaints. And so and the part-time zoning enforcement officer would give us a chance to better respond to those complaints while also being a little bit more proactive and addressing some of the more persistent zoning violations that we see. So we've worked with HR to get a job description and a salary study for that. So that's an increase in the thousands. In the 2000s, not a lot of changes there. You'll see I'm asking for $400 more in copier charges. To the extent that we can, we try to do most things digitally, but my department does print off a lot of letters and packets for our boards and commissions and permits and receipts and so on. So we still do rely on quite a bit of paper printing. In the 3000s, we're looking mostly at reductions here, including to contractual services, postage, legal publications, stormwater permitting, and repair and maintenance for both equipment and vehicles. The 4000s are unchanged. I'm once again asking for the same $1,250 for computer equipment. This is to purchase a laptop next year. And then in the 5000s, our revenue, I would draw your attention to the building permits there, 5,500. I am sort of drastically reducing the projection on that compared to last year. We've actually had a pretty good year when it comes to our revenues with our building permits. We're about 3/4 of the way through the year, and we've brought in about $140,000, which is $30,000 more than we made all of last year. Nevertheless, we're almost certainly not going to hit the 225 that I had projected for last year. So one of the discussions that came up in the initial meeting with members of council was that it's better to under-project than over-project. So I think $150,000 as a projection for next year is something that's more feasible, and I think something that we can obtain. Also notice on 207, 5500, street cut permits have been added to the general fund. And so it seems that historically they've brought in about $50,000. That's what I'm projecting for next year. We're already at about $50,000 for this year, so that's another forecast that I think is obtainable for 2026. And I think that's really about it as far as notable line items go. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you all might have.
Dustin, a lot of red here too. So thank you for being diligent with your budget. And what questions does council have for infrastructure and development?
Did good.
Thank you, Dustin.
Thank you.
Beth Fields, strategic initiatives.
Good evening. We will start with the Local Income Tax Fund 2240. And last night, I provided you with a handout, which is just a little bit easier way for us to look at the changes that we have in the local income tax. So when we're looking at the revenue that you have coming in from the 5110, that is our interest on demand deposits. Then there is our local income tax distribution that comes directly to us from the county. And then the miscellaneous income that you have there, that $59.99, those are the weed liens that Matt referred to earlier. The payment of those liens come over into this fund.
Is it just the weed liens or are there other?
It's just the weed liens.
Thank you.
Yes. When we look at the expenditures in the 301, 3001 contractual services, that line item is for our payment of our 911 contract with the county. So each month, the controller's office receives an invoice for the actual costs for personnel that were incurred during that previous month, and then that payment is made. So looking at that line item, the 301, 3151 consulting fees, this is broken out for Baker Tilly for our comprehensive financial plan quarterly updates. That's a total of $40,000 for the year. It's $10,000 per quarter for the update to that comprehensive financial plan that helps us with our looking at how things are trending and how we're moving forward. And then the other consultant is to assist with the food and beverage, education and marketing. That consultant has not been identified yet by the food and beverage advisory team. So should they determine to move forward, the funding would be there and then selecting that consultant.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Engel.
how much funding is there? I mean,
That I have budgeted at $33,500.
thank you.
What line is that, Beth?
That is the 3013151.
It says here.
It says 73,500.
Correct. That's a total when you add the Baker Tilly 40,000 plus the consultant for food and beverage, the 33,500 gives you that total.
Thank you.
The 3013990, this is the contractual mowing. So this is where code enforcement receives their funding for all the right-of-way mowing and all of the nuisance mowing that occurs. The 3123911, this is for training. Some of the examples for training would be personnel attending the Accelerating Indiana Municipalities, the AIM, webinars, conferences, training sessions that they offer, the Indiana Conference of Mayors, those educational training opportunities that are available to the mayor. The Office of Community and Rural Affairs has several different training opportunities throughout the year. Our grants administrator is currently going through their community development block grant certification process. So that is something that is funded from this line item. As well as new this year, the Indiana Economic Development Corporation has been doing regional economic development acceleration and development initiatives, the READY. They've been doing monthly training sessions for communities to learn more about that program and to learn from one another about how they're organizing projects and what opportunities they have to move their projects forward. In the 308-3151, that is the line item dedicated to implementing items from the city's comprehensive plan. And included in that $210,000 this year is $150,000 for wayfinding signage throughout the community, as well as support for the land bank that the Economic Development Corporation is working to stand up throughout the community, so that as we have properties where potentially code enforcement has demolished the property owner doesn't redeem it, goes to tax sale, no one purchases it, it goes to commissioner's sale, still no one purchases it, it can go into the land bank, and then the land bank will work with developers to either do infill housing there, or, as you had mentioned earlier, potentially offer it to the adjacent property owners. But that's something that that entity will be able to do. The Economic Development Corporation is still working on exactly what that plan will be. I believe some of you attended the workshops that Intend Indiana provided in the last couple of months with their discovery report, sharing the benefits of the land bank and how that could be working here in Wayne County. They presented multiple options for the organization of that and the scope of work. And so now the county and the EDC and that committee are working to determine what that looks like. They've indicated that the contribution they would seek from the city would be $60,000 to assist with getting that stood up and with the staff that would be involved with that.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Engel.
Beth, I'm sorry. So we're putting away money for participation in this land bank program? Is that correct?
Correct.
How much are we putting away?
The $60,000.
Oh, okay. And that's coming out of the 210?
That would be out of the out of the 210,000 total. 60,000 would be for land bank support, and then 150,000 would be for wayfinding.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Goss first.
Is that related to the Intend Indiana LLC contract that was on Public Works?
Not as part of the land bank. That the transfer of properties to Intend from the commissioners, they are coming from the commissioners through the city to Intend. That is part of an overall development for infill that they are doing with the Economic Development Corporation. It is the same entity, but the land bank is different.
Mr. Purcell?
Yes. Excuse me, but is this in any way associated with the land bank that is being set up through the Wayne Foundation?
The one through the Wayne County Trust, that is for commercial properties only. This would be for residential properties. That trust also has a geographic limitation, whereas this land bank would be countywide.
Thank you.
Do you partner from the city side in that with EDC? As far as when funding is coming from city?
Yes, so this would be what they anticipate, the support that they need overall from the city.
And-
would be the 60,000.
And do you represent the city on that with the EDC and other entities?
Yes, Mayor and I sit in on those
Okay.
meetings, yes. And then I didn't include it on here because Denise did a great job of talking about the park request to the local income tax, but just reiterate that 4310, that 29,690, that was $4,000 for the flowers and pots for beautification downtown and in the Depot District, as well as $10,000 for additional holiday lighting and decorations in those same areas, and $15,690 to refresh the welcome signs that welcome individuals into the city.
Are specifically the brick signs?
Yes.
Okay. And then the Christmas lights, those are owned and managed by the Parks Department?
Correct.
Thank you.
The hope is that eventually, as those two entities mature, they will take that responsibility back. That was something that those organizations, when they were very healthy organizations, they funded all of that themselves. And then as they've had some challenging and lean years, the Parks Department has stepped up to assist them with that. So we anticipate probably in the next 3 to 5 years, they'll be at a point where they will fund those themselves, kind of filling that gap. 502-4127, railroad spur repairs. The 505-4435, computer equipment. I am not going to attempt to even tell you what any of these things are. This is simply copied from what Director Phillips from the ID department requested. So all of these are annual licenses that are needed for city operations as well as the replacement of some equipment. So that total line item will be administered by Director Phillips for the IT department.
So could that be eligible for funding through the Certified Technology Park?
Not as software.
Dang it. Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Engel?
so the railroad spur repairs, we haven't done much the first 6 months.
We have done quite a bit, but it has been paid from another fund.
Okay.
So I'll let Matt, was it about $67,000 has been spent so far this year. There was a lot of deferred maintenance that needed to be addressed. So that has been addressed, and then Matt is working with the Economic Development Corporation and with the users of the spur and that portion of the track to come up with a way to partner on those repairs in the future.
Where did the 67,000 come from then? If only 4,572 came out of that?
It would have, I would have to look back at the PO, but I would think it probably came out of the Board of Works because the Board of Works had a line item for railroad spur repairs as well.
But we think we'll spend 50,000. Are we under contract to spend that?
We are under contract for monthly inspections, so there's a monthly inspection required, and then once we receive that inspection report, we have 30 days to respond and make those corrections, or else they shut it down. Okay. So Matthew has got a new contractor on board. He did a great job of seeking out potential entities and going through that interview and due diligence process, and has selected someone that's very responsive, and I think they're going to do a really good job.
Great, thank you.
And this is really where vehicle travels over railroad?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
The 507-4338, this is promotion and marketing. So this line item is used for event sponsorships and tickets. I listed an example of some of the things that were funded in 2025 and 2024. Sponsorship of the Meltdown Ice Festival, the annual Chamber Dinner, Cycling for Survivors, the Smart Futures Dinner, Columbian Properties Quality of Place Conference. There are others as well, but that is the use of this line item, is for the city to support those nonprofit entities in their endeavors. 508, 4,000, this is beautification. This $60,000 is the annual weed abatement contract that the city enters into every year for the medians as well as the interchange areas. 508, 4326, Park Master Plan. This is for the Parks Patrol Special Task Force. That's a $10,000. This is a new initiative in partnership with the Police Department, the Parks, and the Mayor's Office.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Engel.
the, back to 4,000, city beautification. Who does that? Who's,
That is bid out each year in the first quarter of the year. So a public bid is let, and then we receive proposals, and then we select the most responsive and responsible bidder to award that contract.
and how do we go about finding or designating the areas where they are doing the weed ratification?
Those were identified. There was a group of individuals led by the Chamber of Commerce, and tourism was a part of that. The city was a part of it, the Parks Department, and that group of individuals identified what areas they felt it was most important to have that weed abatement done.
Okay.
And so that's how that was determined.
Okay. And as you probably know, we've had some complaints from citizens about weeds growing on the side of the road, including one gentleman that brings a big tall weed in every so often. So that's the reason I asked. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Beth, 4326, is that for, like the pool parties and stuff, having?
This is a special task force that has been put together to look at what can we do in the parks and to provide more of a presence in all of our parks, specifically to ensure that everyone knows that we have a great RPD presence in all of these locations. They're there at events. For example, they're there prior to the farmers market each week. They do a walkthrough, assist, make sure that everything is ready to go for that event. They do that for other events as well. And yes, it does include assisting with events that are at the pool. The grant match, the 4332, that is the transit match that Matt spoke about during the transit budget. That will be spent, our money is typically the last money in, so you don't see a lot of activity on that account until the last quarter of the year. And that runs in arrears with the voucher process that we submit for reimbursement from the state and the federal and for our portion. So you'll see a lag in that, and you won't see a lot in the first portion of the year. The 4401, this is the economic development line item. In this line item, we have the $30,000 for the support of the part-time veteran services officer that's employed by the county. There is lobbying services through the mayor's office for $40,000. Also for the mayor's office, mailing and shipping charges will occasionally have titles or other documents that we'll need to overnight or ship to someone, as well as miscellaneous purchases. This could be for a headset, it could be for individuals that are maybe hospitalized, or if someone on our team passes away, so that we can provide flowers for those individuals, cards for those individuals. We are projecting that we will need new AED battery, as well as then there is a balance of $26,600 for emergent items that may come up. That total is not specifically allocated to something at this time.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Engel.
I just want to take this opportunity to thank you, Beth, and the mayor and Tracy for the money being given to the veteran service officer. I've been down in the county administration building. They're very, very busy, and they're doing a great job, and I do appreciate the support from the city. Thank you.
I am happy to answer any questions that you have.
Everything that you mentioned lastly, was that coming out of 4332
That's coming out of 4401.
Economic Development? How long, to your knowledge, has the lobbying been a part of that?
That was a new addition in 2025.
And how much of that is approximately how much in the 4401 is lobbying?
The amount that we're projecting for 2026 is $40,000. I do not have a number for the amount of the current contract, but I can get that.
Is that an annual contract?
It was a one-year contract.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. President,
Mr. Goss?
I see in here the VMware support. You might have Tracy reach out to their vendor for that, because Broadcom has made some massive changes, and the fees have like tripled. So,
I will do that. Thank you.
yeah.
Any final questions for the edit lit portion? Hearing none, I'd like to move on. Midwest,
For the Midwest Industrial Park, the revenue there comes from the interest on demand deposits, but then also for our farm lease. We have an increase in the number of acreage that's available in our farm lease now. So we now have 424 acres, and at the most recent bid, the successful bidder was at $340 an acre. So that is the calculation that we use to determine that revenue for the $59.99. Looking at the expenditures for the Midwest Industrial Park, and this budget is put together in partnership with the Economic Development Corporation's Midwest Industrial Park Committee. So they look at the needs in the industrial park, and that is where these expenditures come from. So when we look at the $39.99 miscellaneous expenditures, that is for forest clearing that needs to be done on some of the property. And there are 8 acres that need to be cleared, and the proposal that they've received is for $8,000 an acre. So that is $64,000 of that total. And then for Midwest Industrial Park mowing there at the site, that $15,000 will then go to assist with the contract for mowing that the city has. 4410 is the wetlands capital improvement. This is wetland mitigation, and this is something that we continue to do each year a little bit at a time. Happy to answer any questions for the Midwest Industrial Park.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Engel.
Beth, the mowing that you're talking about is for the entire, it's not just for the third section of the park?
Correct, it's for the entire Midwest
this-
Industrial
that's
Park.
The same with the wetlands
Yes.
mitigation? Okay, thank
Correct.
you.
I would like to just add, part of next year, this coming conversation, always top of mind is working with sanitation. I know Midwest Industrial Park, but continuing to develop, that conversation as far as building for the future.
Absolutely. And this is also the fund that when we do sell land in the industrial park, those proceeds are also deposited here.
Okay.
At this point, we're not certain whether we will have a sale in 2026, so we didn't include any revenue.
Any questions, Midwest?
Yes. How do you determine who farms the land? Like,
It is a bid process. It's a public
Okay.
bid process. So we hosted a public meeting and we did public notices and invited farmers that had bid previously to attend the meeting so that they could see the additional acreage, see what the expectations were, and then they were invited to submit a bid.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any final questions, Midwest? Please proceed.
Okay. Certified Technology Park, 2237. We covered this Monday night. There is currently no revenue, no expenditures coming through that. This fund is overseen by the Redevelopment Commission.
Any questions on CTP? Please proceed.
I believe the next one that you have is the opioid unrestricted, 2256. Is that correct?
On the,
Is that the next?
Oh, Lloyd,
on the thumb drive, it's Lloyd. But
local option income.
do you,
So I can speak to that.
Okay.
Sure. The local option income tax, there were excess distributions that were provided, and the first time that the state did that, back in 2016, they required municipalities to set up a specific fund and place all of the local option income tax excess into that fund and spend it from that fund. In the last 2 years, that has been modified, and that money now goes directly into the general fund and is spent from the general fund. So there will be an ordinance coming to council to transfer that fund balance from the local option income tax fund into the general fund. There were no restrictions on the use. It could be used for any lawful purpose.
questions on Lloyd? Hearing none, please proceed.
So now are we ready for opioid unrestricted?
Yeah, so the one that's on the thumb drive is unrestricted first.
Okay. Unrestricted, 2256. This is the first time that we are budgeting funding from the opioid funds. As you recall, there was a settlement, and communities are receiving funds from that settlement. And it was determined by the state that those had to be deposited into funds specifically for, with the unrestricted, there's no limitation on what you can use those funds for. So with that balance, we are expecting revenue of $6,356.70 into that fund in 2026. And the expenditures, as you heard the police department last night, they indicated that they are in need of 8 new vehicles each year. The 6 were being funded from the Community Capital Development Fund, the CCD. The other 2 vehicles, to round out that total of 8, are coming from the unrestricted opioid fund, the 2256. So this amount here covers those 2 vehicles as well as the equipment packages with the lights and decals that go on those.
2 vehicles for $327,000?
No, for $100,148.
Okay. So if there are no restrictions on this, as an example, this could be used in the Parks Department?
Correct.
Okay. Just for example purposes.
Yes. Other questions on
What questions?
restricted?
Council have for opioid unrestricted?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Engel?
I'm just not sure. So this is this our final year of receiving?
No, we have several more years to receive.
And how much did we get?
The amount fluctuates each year. So we receive a percentage that goes for unrestricted. We receive an amount that goes in the restricted fund. And then the way we that elected to receive ours, the attorney receives a direct distribution as well. So that goes directly and doesn't flow through us. So our funding goes into the unrestricted and the restricted.
Okay, all righty. Do we know what we are to receive next year in '26, or will that?
In the unrestricted in '26, we'll receive $6,356.70. And then in the restricted fund, we will receive $63,956.13.
Thank you.
Any final questions on opioid unrestricted? Hearing none, let's move to restricted.
So with the restricted, with the settlement, there was a list of eligible uses for your restricted fund. So within that schedule, it identifies the different uses that we can use the fund for. We are going to be presenting an ordinance to council to utilize some of those funds. You'll see in your cash flow sheet, you will see in the projected adjustments and additional appropriations, you will see a dollar amount there, and that is what we will be asking for to help cover the eligible expenses of police response and support for substance use disorder, emotional distress calls, and others. So we have call logs that show what that percentage of the number of calls that they have and the percentage that are related to that. And then we're able to assign that percentage to those salary amounts, and that's what we will use from the restricted fund. That's what we're proposing. So there would be an appropriation ordinance coming before council in the coming meetings to approve that, and that would be for use in 2025.
Questions on the restricted opioid money?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Purcell.
would it be possible for these funds to also be distributed to the fire department for their responses to overdoses, et cetera?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other question? Restricted? Please proceed. I have tax abatement next.
Yes. So with the tax abatement fund, this is the fund where as businesses receive a tax abatement, we request a donation from them of 10% of their tax savings. This is the fund where those are deposited, and then these funds are then used for different sidewalk and curb improvements. We do not have currently any eligible expenditures listed here. When TL is in need of funding from this fund for projects, then we will come to council for an additional appropriation when we know specifically what those projects are.
Questions on the tax abatement? Mr. Goss, do you have? No. As the head of tax abatement. Any other questions from council, tax abatement? Hearing none.
Okay. So the next is the Tax Increment Financing Fund 3321. This is overseen by the Redevelopment Commission, and in your handouts yesterday, I provided you with the Redevelopment Commission project list. These are the items that redevelopment may spend their funding on. Within our budget, each of our line items correspond to each of these 10 items that are listed here. And we submit to the Department of Local Government Finance each year a budget. That budget is different than what we submit and share with council, because that budget has to include all of the projected bond issuances and the cost of those. So when we work with Baker Tilly, our financial advisor, and we look at the projects that we have in the pipeline, then we estimate what that total will be. If the commission has projects that are outside of what we have submitted, we are able to request an amendment to that through the Department of Local Government Finance should the commission determine that they would like to expense more than they submitted in their spending plan.
Railroad crossings.
Yes, this is another location where we budget funding for railroad crossings, because we do have a couple of railroad crossings within the TIF allocation area.
Any questions?
And the cumulative capital investment account, the 4401, the only item that we have listed here is the support for the Information Technology Department to assist with the funding of the Geographical Information System. We are in partnership with the county and with the sanitation district for the software and the GIS system and the maintenance that is required for that, and this fund assists with paying that.
Questions?
President,
Mr. Goss?
could you find out what the balance of that fund is?
Balance as of January 1st of 2025 was $25,403.29.
I think
On-
Mr. Goss is referring to the county balance. The county has a fund because we're contributing in and then they spend.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
Oh, no worries. I will request that from Mr. Atkins at the county.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. President,
Mr. Engel?
I see there's a line item for the mechanics laundry. What's happening with that? Does the city own that?
We do. You must be referring, that's not in the CCI. Are you referring to the
It's a tip.
TIF?
Sorry
4218.
about that.
For the TIF? Yes, so we have done we have had a consultant go through, the previous owner completed the cleanup through the voluntary remediation program through the Indiana Department of Environmental Management. And so with that information, then bid specifications were prepared. Matt Keller is in the process of getting the pre-demolition survey consultant on board and completed. And then when that is completed, then it will be bid out for demolition.
Lo, these many years we've waited for that.
Yeah. Thank you.
These are long game projects.
Yes, they are.
The other new funds that we have are related to the local option highway user income tax. As you're aware, the county passed the local option highway user tax. So in order to accept those funds from the county, we will receive a distribution from the county. Those will be deposited into the municipal vehicle excise tax fund that we have, the 2249, as well as the municipal wheel tax fund, 2250. Those numbers were designated by the State Board of Accounts and the account titles. We are waiting for additional information as to what that revenue will be. The plan is that, as you heard from Commissioner Bozell for the street commissioner, for Community Crossings grant, he has $500,000 allocated in his budget for the grant match. The plan is that the other $500,000 would come from these funds that we receive if they are needed. If we can't fill that gap with redevelopment, with projects that are in the allocation areas, this fund, so you will, when we are ready to do that, then we will come before council to request an appropriation when we know exactly the amount that we need and the work that will be done.
Beth, 4322. 3 from the bottom.
Are you on a different fund?
The
No.
unobligated.
You are in the 3321?
Yes.
Sorry, I was in the wheel tax.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. So that corresponds back, I don't think that line item title has been changed in the accounting system, but that corresponds back to the, let me make sure I have the right one. That corresponds back to public safety on the spending plan. We just haven't updated the title of that line item.
And can you provide a little bit of feedback or insight on 4241 MRL?
That is the Morrison Reeves Library. They requested assistance with funding the design portion of their project, and so the Redevelopment Commission came in as a partner on that project and funded just a little less than 50% of that study cost.
Any additional questions for Beth? Hearing none?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Beth.
Thank you.
I'd like to call EMS.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Jeff Kinder, Chief of Richmond Fire. Where'd we leave off?
Well, I think we should just start over.
Start over. Back to the EMS where we started from last night, the EMS accounts. By 2310 and 2410 and 2411, there were no changes in the EMS accounts from the 2025 budget. The 2210, my gasoline, I cut $18,000 out from the previous budget. After looking at it, I saw that I think we was overfunded a little bit there. There's no change in the 2212 number for tires, no changes there. The EMS vehicle parts, since we have, most of our ambulance now are in good physical shape, and so we took a $5,000 reduction there. Our EMS contract service, we increased $10,000 as for increase for the lease for the cardiac monitors. They're basically $55,000 a piece, and we can get a lease out of it over lease to buy.
Is that in contractual services?
Yeah, well, it's under
30
contract.
$39.90?
Yes.
Okay. What else would be in contractual services?
Let me get to EMS. Our contracts, in our contractual service of $39.90, our annual maintenance for all of our medical equipment, our Lucas device. It also our striping our vehicles, our inventory system that's going in right now, our striker repair for them. That's our automated lifts, carts, our hand heavy system. There's our dash cam contract for that, and our cardiac monitor lease is all coming out of that.
So we might have covered this last night, but through the first two quarters, you spent $10,479, and it's budgeted for $85,026. Do you pay a lot of those contracts in the last two quarters?
Yeah, right now we have 24 contracts sitting over at law currently, sitting there on some of these things.
Okay.
The monitors we haven't got the monitors yet, so we're waiting on them. Our EMS and telephone and our air card, we reduced that by $7,000. We've got some savings there. The printing was the same. Our 2215 fleet repair, no change there. And our 3911 EMS training, that's the budget that we used for our paramedicine and EMTs. There's no changes in those numbers from last year. That's EMS, that's the EMS accounts.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Purcell.
Chief, last night, we kind of ended debating what your projected income would be for 2026. Have we found a number that we're comfortable with there?
Well, after going back this morning and looking through our data, there's two things going on. What we projected was the 3.4. This year, we also, because we took our part-time employees and we shut down our transfer business, and that's about a $300,000 reduction this year that we will be putting that back in place as our staff lines are fixed. The transfer that we have, we use our part-time to transfer patient care through the hospital through that as a transfer service. And this year, since we've used those part-time employees to fill our full-time spots because of staffing needs on the frontline apparatus, we temporarily suspended that until a time that we can put that back in place. And our plan is next year to put that back full-time in place. And hopefully that's a $300,000 increase also. So I estimated a little bit wrong there, but it was an estimation. It's an estimation on what we project next year. The second thing is what we've collected right now. We've looked at our average. We're averaging between about $275,000 every month in income from our EMS billing. We have a 2-month right now because the contract from our previous ended in June 30th. Our new billing contract didn't take over until August 1st, but there's 2 months sitting there that we're still waiting on. So our projection of 2.9, it looks as right now that we're not going to hit that 3.4, but as our average, we just don't know when that 2 month is going to catch up. It's going to catch up this year, or if it gets rolled into next year. So that's the issues we're having with discrepancy in the budget, the funding right there.
Is that something that the company could communicate on as far as when those will pay out?
Well, we're still working out the bugs of switching out billing companies. The reason why we switched billing companies is we went from a billing rate of 6.5 to 4.5, which saves the city money over time. Over a 14-year span, they would buy one ambulance, essentially. So to do that, to get all the bugs worked out, the computers talking to Read software, and then catching up that billing, that 2-month period. We don't know how long that's going to take. We're still currently working with the MSG.
Because of Medicare laws and things that we have to provide through Medicare, the documentation part, and the systems have to communicate with each other, okay? The reason they took over for us early is because the other billing company was going to charge us for the last 2 months. They was going to raise their rate to 8% instead of 6.5. So
we were hoping to have those bugs worked out prior, but it was a go, no-go. We had to go.
And I know Nick had a meeting today with Reed and the billing company and how we're getting that patch fixed. So, because right now we're having to take actually screenshots with our tablets online, so we have the billing paperwork. So it's sent to the billing company, but hopefully soon that communication will, once that gets solved, they go straight from Reed to the billing company. It fixes that issue. And we knew there was going to be anytime you switch softwares and how you operate, we know there's going to be some bugs in it. And we're just working through those bugs right now.
We don't know when the lag's going to catch up, whether it be this year or following the next year. And if it goes into next year, obviously, next year's estimates will be higher. So this year, we took out that 2 months and estimated it at 2.9. Last year, we were at 3.5 revenue.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Purcell.
are you still on 13 billing cycles a year, or did they go to 12?
I have to ask Nick on that one. If I assume it's still at 13, what we've been on, but.
I just needed that for
Yeah.
your numbers you gave me. Thank you. Another question, Mr. Chairman. How's your relationship with Reed? Because I know we had an agreement that obviously we've not met this year.
We've been very forthcoming and open with them. We've had a dialogue here lately because they're in need for us to get back into the transfer business.
Transfer's good.
Yes, they've been very well with us because our relationship, and they understand the staff. We're having staffing issues too, and that's a whole problem that they're dealing with as well. But we had to make that call this year because of our staffing issues and what we provide for the citizens of Richmond is first. And then, once we get this solved, which we're real close, I think, and next year, and we've got plans to even up our transfer capability for them. So we're in talks with them too. And they're waiting, they've called us a couple times, waiting for us to get one as soon as we possibly can. Even if we go from, instead of 7 days a week, if we start doing their dump days, a couple days a week, as we get more people hired, and the part-time can rotate and get their hours that way through the transfers,
Thank you.
if that makes sense.
Council have it.
Mr. President.
Mr. Engel.
So with the transfer, what kind of qualifications would a firefighter need?
They have the same, the part-time, they have to be EMTs to be on the transfer trucks, or paramedic. It depends on, right now, if we have a BLS run that's a transfer, then
It's a BLS.
basic life support.
Okay.
There's an advanced life support and basic life support. It's a BLS run.
Gotcha.
A BLS run has 2 EMTs on it. So a lot of 80% of your transfers are done by your BLS, which is, that's from the nursing home to the doctor's office back. Those kind of, where it's not deemed an emergency, but it needs medical care.
I see, okay. But they have to be EMTs?
Yes.
Or
Yes.
paramedics?
Yes.
Are we still moving toward having all the firefighters be EMTs?
All our firefighters are EMTs now. All
Okay.
current hires are firefighters.
Okay.
Then all of our new hires are, of course, required to become paramedics within 5 years of their hire date.
Gotcha.
So we're still in that, but that's something down the road in negotiations with the union and how we're looking at how to best operate the system that we're currently running.
Okay, thank you.
So then everyone on the ambulance is an EMT?
Yes.
And is the second person a paramedic?
For the ambulance to be an ALS, Advanced Life Support Unit, it has to have 1 medic and an EMT.
Okay.
If it's a BLS response, then it has to be two EMTs.
Okay, and that's called out prior to the run?
Well, yeah, it's deemed, when dispatch comes out, there's certain calls that the level of advance is needed. So we have, we run 3 buses every day with medics on them every day.
What additional questions, EMS, from council? Hearing none?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Again.
Thank you. So I'll take any additional comments from council as we conclude the third night of the committee of the whole here. I was asked to clear something up. I got a phone call today from a county commissioner, Wayne County Commissioner, saying that there was an inaccurate statement made during the meeting about county employees not receiving raises. This commissioner would have wanted that to be retracted, that redacted. That was not an accurate statement. So.
Okay.
Any comments as we wrap the committee of the whole?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Engel?
I serve on the park board as the council's representative, and I know earlier this year, there was a $700,000 mistake that was made. My understanding, in talking to the park superintendent, is that money has been spent, and I wanted to see how we are going to make that up in this budget.
That is an incorrect statement. When I first started, and it was my fault, something that I did inadvertently. When we first started the budget process for this year, I had made an adjustment, and it was, I think, $697,000. And it was a line on the cash flow sheet below revenues and disbursements, and it's, well, I could show you, it's just below the line. It adjusts the ending cash balance is what it affected.
Okay.
I actually caught it later, probably later than I should, and made the change. Now, as far as the park spending that money, that did not happen.
It
because
did
it's
not
for-
happen.
No, it's for 2026.
Just a follow-up, and I don't mean to interrupt,
No,
Mr. Engel.
not at all.
We go back to the police pension and the fire pension, and those monies going towards parks. Is any of that related, is that related to what Mr. Engel is talking about?
In my opinion, no. Because that line that came in the cash flow portion, it was just an adjustment line. It just affects what the ending cash balance was, not anything that was spent or revenue. It didn't affect revenue or any of the expenses. Probably show you one to give you, in fact, the perfect example would be,
And just also for clarification, through some research, I had received the answer that in order to do such action from the police pension and fire pension, that you would have to seek approval from each one of those unions in order to do that.
that I do not know, but I can find out. If you look at the cash flow, and I just pulled up the police pension as a prime example, you will see your revenue lines for 25 and 26. You see the circuit breaker, and you also see the disbursements. These numbers were not affected at all. What I did is, I believe right here, I actually entered a number as a projected adjustment, which was not a true statement. So if I put in $100,000, it's going to change the cash balance. That was the only change that occurred.
So,
It does not change what was, as far as the budget for 25 and 26, it did not change that at all. It only changed the projection of the cash flow for the ending balance.
so Mr. Engel, I believe there's some misinformation on some end, and I would encourage the park board and park leadership, maybe in conjunction with the corporate attorney and finance and the mayor's office, to have some dialogue on that, because I think there's a lot of communication out of whack. I believe there's a lot of different opinions there, and I think some leadership is needed to step up and mitigate this.
Great, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Purcell.
I have some questions on the budget overall. Last year, and correct me if along the way here I am off track, last year when the budget was submitted, contrary to it being advertised as a balanced budget, it came back as being underfunded by about 1.5 million, plus it was a $900,000 error, meaning that the budget was off about 2.4 million from being funded, 2.4 total though.
Okay.
So at that point, from what I understand, and that's one of the reasons I asked the question a few meetings back about unfunded liabilities, because contracts are liabilities that must be funded. And the balanced budget was balanced, part of it, on the reduction of payroll for the second half of police and firefighters.
Correct.
Okay. And with the hopes that you would save that before the second half of the year.
And we have done so.
And you have done so,
Yes, sir.
to pay
You will-
that.
You will start seeing some additional appropriations and transfers that will cover that one.
Okay. So we basically shorted police and fire pay for the end of '25 in order to balance the budget, because there was a lot of misinformation around there that I cut the budget.
Okay.
which did not happen in the sense of reducing payroll below.
No, not payroll. You are correct, it wasn't the payroll, there were other line items that were done.
Yes, okay, that were double funded. Me understanding the budget relatively well. Now, so that's 2.4 million. And we're stating that we have a funded budget for 26 lined up here. $2.4 million short of being able to pay for it, but $2.4 million saved from this year in reserve to make it a funded budget.
It is funded but not balanced.
Okay, so that adds up to $4.8 million turnaround in 25 and looking at 26. That just seems magical to me.
Not magical. It's not.
Numbers aren't magical.
Tracy, do you know the last time we had a balanced budget?
Not as long as I've been here.
Okay.
And I've been here 5 years. What we have projected adjustments right now for the general fund at 1.4 billion. And there's a list. I'd have to get Beth to give me exactly what this list is, but it is a list. 467,000, one entry, 500,000 another, 192,000 another. All these funds, all of these numbers, we have went back in budget savings that we do not expect to use this year. We have 192,000 that's coming out for encumbrances that were listed by BSNA that said, you've encumbered this, so we can get that back. And then the $250,000 items that you had talked about earlier are right here. One would be an additional appropriation, and another is a transfer. So what we have done is we actually have an estimated cash balance at the end of 2026 at $819,000.
Okay, where are we getting the rest of the 2.4 to balance the 26 budget?
There is no 2.4. This is this is the 1.5 right there for the, we have.
Except the 1782 was what, 1.5, right?
Yes, the 1782 was 1.5. Yep.
1.5, not
Yes.
2.4.
Yep, it's 1.5.
1.5,
Yes.
okay.
And that's basically what we have right here.
So we're projecting an ending balance for 25 higher than we've had in a while. At how much? 3 million?
Yeah, at the end of 25, we have a projected cash balance of $3,164,223.73.
Which is 13%,
It is 13.2%.
which is more than we've had in a long time.
Yes.
So
Okay.
if the same thing happens next year, we don't spend that 2.4, because we don't fill positions, it could be the same place.
I hope you can understand my confusion of going from being 2.4 short to having all this.
I don't believe it was 2.4, but I'm
That's
not-
what we
not
were
going to
told.
argue that.
Okay. I guess my next question is we have raises that we have given, and rightfully so, for police and fire. And if we have the same issues of income, in fact, we're being told income's going to come down, and we're basically borrowing out of reserve to pay for this year's raises, how are we looking forward?
The biggest problem is for 20 years, the city has not been able to adjust its own lit. The county has to do the lit. And we were never able to institute a public safety tax. Starting in 27, the city will be required to do its own lit, and we'll be able to readjust then and basically get enough money to cover the public safety costs and get salaries where they need to be. Right now, we can't do anything about it. We can't adjust the lit taxes. It's only by the county. But in 27, that changes for 28. So that's our timeline. So in 27, this council will be able to say, we're going to do this with lit. We're going to put some into economic development. We're going to put some into public safety, which we've never done before because we never had that option. We just haven't. So we got to hang on.
Is that an additional tax to what is currently being charged of our taxpayers, or is that, Did come off of our
additional.
tax cap.
All the lit taxes go away in 2028, and we have to adopt our own. So we'll have the opportunity to say, we want this lit tax to go to this. Right now, we don't have much choice, because only the county can adopt a lit tax.
Is that a reduction in tax caps, or is that an actual increase?
Nothing to do with cat caps, it's income. And so one thing that's really boding well for us is that if you look at the U.S. Census report, we've increased median household income by 50% in the last 10 years. So the next 3 years, it's going to continue to increase with all the new jobs and plants. So we may not have to change the rate at all just to get more money coming into the city to fix those issues.
Thank you.
Because the income, every year, the median household income creeps up in Richmond. It's a good thing. We'll be able to control our own destiny starting in 28 on those areas. Right now, we can't.
Any final remarks as it relates to the Committee of the Whole and the 2026 budget? I would think that just encouraging looking at what is essential and what is non-essential is going to be key, and right-sizing what the city needs. So with that, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Before we remember, we have a special Monday meeting, September 29th.